Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host,
Brett
Gilliland.
Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I am Brett Gilliland, your host, and this is Dan McClory. Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brett. Thanks for having me on the show.
Awesome. Great to be with you. How is beautiful California right now?
It's not bad. I just got back from Florida. It's definitely cooler here, but no humidity. The sun is out. It's a great day in Southern California.
Yes. Our paths crossed last week, and we didn't even know it, did we? I was in Palm Beach Gardens and West Palm and in Aventura, and you were down there as well, weren't you?
Yeah, we've got an office in Boca Raton, but
Okay.
as you know, especially in financial services, it's like all of New York has decided to move to Southern Florida. And you bump into people all the time that you're not expecting to see there. It's kind of like their second home. And we even have tax exiles from California that have gone 3,000 miles to be in that place.
Yep. It's amazing the traffic over the years I've seen change. I mean, it's always been not great traffic, but it was absolutely awful this time. The traffic was terrible. So more and more people, they said since COVID, so many people just moved there. But you can see why. It's a beautiful part of the country. Well, again, you are Dan McClory. You are the CEO and chairman of Boustead and Company, and it's a non-bank financial institution, so investment banking. You guys take people public through IPOs, and we'll dive into all that stuff. But if you can, Dan, just kind of what's helped make you and shape you to be the man that you are today?
I'm sure you have a similar experience, Brett, but a lot of people say they are who they are despite where they came from. But I would say you are who you are precisely because of where you come from. And I was born in Detroit and grew up there in the 60s and 70s and was fortunate to compete in athletics in college and track and cross country at Eastern Michigan University. And my first job was with Ford Motor Company. They sent me to California. I've been here 40 plus years.
Wow.
But I think what I learned growing up in a place like Detroit, which even at that time was challenged and had lots of things to overcome, has really bode well for me in life and has just ingrained in me a number of principles that are, super essential for being even remotely successful.
Yeah. And did you see some of that from your parents? Like, did you see success there? Did you not see success there? 'Cause I'm always fascinated by where people come from.
Yeah, I was the first generation of my family to go to college, and my dad worked in the steel industry in Detroit, which was somewhat cyclical. And but my parents were determined that all four of us kids were going to go to college, and it's actually worked out pretty good. So from relatively humble beginnings, my older brother is a judge in Detroit. My younger brother is a Roman Catholic bishop. I'm kind of the businessman in the middle there. And my sister is a fantastic mother of 6 children that had her own career as well in social work.
Nice. That's awesome. 6 kids. That's a lot of kids.
It sure is. I've just got 3. That's been a handful.
Yes, exactly. So what are you seeing, Dan? So all these companies that you guys have been fortunate enough to work with and take public, and so you have a founder of a company and they've built something, they built it pretty special. Like what are the characteristics you're seeing in all these businesses that have been super successful? What's that common denominator that you're seeing from leadership?
Yeah, you run across lots of successful people too, Brett, and it's just that. It's people. You can have incredible people that can make things happen with mediocre assets, companies, business prospects. And conversely, you can have mediocre people that have phenomenal advantages, but just can't get it together and make things happen. So I always err on the side of people. One of the benefits of what we're doing in investment banking, because we're a generalist investment bank, I always say we're a specialist generalist. So we're not particularly focused on any one sector. The diversity of people that we meet, both industry-wise, geographically, 1/3 of our clients are Asia, 1/3 are in Europe, 1/3 are in North and South America, is just unparalleled. But it's got to come down to the people and then the team that normally that founder or those founders can inspire to follow them and to persevere, overcome, but like we're seeing today, to adapt, to modify their approach, to not just be locked into one thing. It's about reinventing yourself and your company as is required.
Yeah. What are they doing to focus on culture? I mean, I'm assuming culture is a big part of that, clearly.
It is. because if you're not convinced and you can't convince the people that you're leading
Right.
to have the same outlook, you're done. So I think the culture is, to be entrepreneurial, to take risks, take calculated risks, make sure you've got a plan for everything, and understand that the plan goes sideways, like Mike Tyson says, when you get hit in the face.
Yeah.
Be able to land on your feet and get out of those dark one-way alleys, and find ways over, around, underneath, because nothing's simple and nothing's easy.
So I'm writing down here when you said taking calculated risk. I couldn't agree more. But at what point do you also have to trust your gut versus that whole paralysis by analysis? So I've seen it for 20 something years. So of you that people that just can't get out of their own way because everything's got to be perfect. They've got to analyze it. I'm assuming the people that you've been around the most successful trust their gut and just take action. Would that be a fair statement?
They do. And I'm reminded when my oldest son graduated from Berkeley and Eric Schmidt, who was the executive chairman of Google, gave the commencement address, the theme was say yes to things.
Yeah.
There's only two things you can't decide in your life: when you're born, and as in who your parents are, and when you graduate from college. But you don't get anywhere by saying no. You got to say yes to things. It's how you get your first job, get married, move across the country, get your next job, have children, buy a house, all these things. But if there's one takeaway today, it's that there is a lot of, to use your word, over-analysis instead of just doing things. And I think about that famous line from Bob Seger in Against the Wind, I wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. I'm really glad I didn't know a lot of things at the time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done them.
Right.
I would have been held back and said, this is never going to work. But instead, it's like, let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right, aren't you? I look back at my career and there's certain things I'm like, whew, man, if I knew that, I don't know. This was hard, but we come out on the other end. And so when you hear that and you think about that stuff, if this is being hard, like what actions did you take kind of day in and day out, looking back over your, very successful career? What are the no miss items that were happening for you?
Yeah, well, let me just set something straight, though. I always say it's only taken me 20 years to become an overnight success. So we all have our ups and downs and our extended time periods that it takes to get things done. And no one is 100% successful, not in baseball, not in business, not in life. So it's knowing that you can land on your feet. It's knowing that there's always a backup plan, even that backup plan is only you and perhaps the key people in your company. But there's nothing that you cannot overcome, whether it's a bankruptcy, whether it's a market correction, whether it's the loss of a key client, a key employee, whatever it could be. There's always tomorrow. There's always a way to address it. And the people that think that they're sort of one and done, that's a really tough life to be in. This is not to say that you or I haven't faced challenging times. We all have. But knowing that there's always a way to get to where you want to go. It just takes time and effort and being adaptive.
Yeah. I like to call it boringly consistent. It is, I don't know about for you, but for me, it's literally the same thing every day. I put my bag in the same spot in my office. I go get my water. I come back and get my journals out. There's this process that I've just followed for years to be boringly consistent. Were those there? Are those still to this day there for you, or were they back, again in your early times as you're building the businesses? What was that like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about it like athletics, and in my case, it was track and field and cross country at a mid-major university. And of course, the things you learn when you're coming up through junior high and high school. And it's about repetition. It's about practice. It's about discipline. It's about a routine. I'm big on routines. I'm really big on routines. I don't care if I'm in Uzbekistan. I'm going to be on my routine. I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to run 3 miles. I don't care if I just got off a plane. That's going to happen. I'm going to do certain things, and I'm going to repeat that. And even if I've been totally disrupted through travel or time zones or anything like that, I'm going to do that. And again, over time, that promotes, not just in your subconscious, but in your actions and what other people model about your actions, that, there's a plan here. There's something that's being followed through on. There's something that's being taken action on, even though it seems to be a series of extremely small steps. The structure and discipline of habit, I think, is super important.
Yeah. So 3 miles a day?
That's right. I always say I used to run in college 30 pounds ago, but 12 miles a day, rain or shine. In fact, it's more fun sometimes when it's pouring down rain, just to break things up a little bit. But that's definitely one of my routines.
That's great. And other exercises you've done to stay active and keep energy?
Nothing really more than push-ups and sit-ups. I couldn't say I'm a big weightlifter. I like to play basketball, but my three-point shot is one in a row, as I like to say. So not a whole lot more there. I'm not a big golf tennis player, but yeah, just getting out there and doing it at street level is what I enjoy.
What do you think when I always say when the lights aren't on, right? You hear that talk about for athletes as well. When the lights aren't shining and you got to be practicing and putting in the work, where would you say when you look back on your career, even other people's career that you've seen and you've watched, what were they doing when the lights weren't shining?
Positive self-talk. Knowing and understanding that you can get through this and you can make things happen, and having all those influences, whether it's God, whether it's your family, whether it's your colleagues, whether it's your attitude at the end of it all, but really never allowing yourself to get down. Don't get depressed. Don't think it's not able to be overcome. It is. You can. So I think reinforcing that, and even though, you have good days and I have good days and you have bad days and I have bad days, and there's all kinds of minutia and detail to put up with that maybe isn't so stimulating and invigorating. But back to your comment about process and habit, those are all the steps on the way to getting big things done. It starts with getting the small things done.
On that self-talk, did you have a mantra or did you have a card? Like I've had different cards throughout the year. I keep in my journal with me and I'll read them myself, right? Things that who you are becoming and these little sayings. Did you have that stuff? Was that important to you? What was that like to build that self-confidence?
Yeah, it was super important. Brett, it's really interesting you mentioned this. So when I was getting my master's degree, I had a 5th year of eligibility at Eastern Michigan University in cross country and track. So I got a master's in language and international trade. It was something that I could bang out in about 10 months. And I did a project. It was actually from the English department, and I did a compilation of quotes. It's called Motivating Athletic Performance, and I've republished it a couple of times. But at a very young age, I started collecting quotes, and I categorized them, and I put them in different topics: overcoming adversity, motivation, discipline. And over the years, I've added to them. I love a greatly turned quote. I mean, it can set me off, and it just epitomizes maybe what you're going through at the moment, what you need to keep going, and how you can inspire others.
Yeah. So favorite quote, what is it?
Well, I think I used it at the beginning of the show, and it's you aren't who you are despite where you come from. You are who you are precisely because of where you come from. So never overlook all your experiences. Never overlook the value of anything: failures, successes, background, upbringing, business transitions that you've been through, family events, all those things. That's what's made you who you are. You're a unique person. You got a unique skill set. There's only one Brett. There's only one Dan. And we can go out and do great things.
Yeah. One of one, right? We are one of one. But I think sometimes it's hard when that person that maybe is listening to this that isn't in that positive mode maybe right now. Maybe they've had a bad run. Maybe their job, quite frankly, just sucks and they don't like it, or having some tough family times. Like, what's that pick-me-upper that you would tell them? And that first step, because there's going to be 100 steps to getting back. But what's that first step for them to kind of help pick them up off the floor and help them get going?
Well, first of all, I make reference to the fact that if not for the grace of God and certain turns of events, I could be you and you could be me right now.
Yeah.
So maybe you're looking to me for advice, but I'm going to say this: if this situation was turned around, I'm convinced you would be doing the same thing for me. So first and foremost, and I don't just say that, blindly. I say that with meaning and intention, because somebody could tap you or I on the shoulder. Everything we have could go up in flames or sideways or get turned around. Yeah. And who knows, how those roles will be reversed. So what I say is this could be me. And by the way, you're going to do this for somebody else someday too. So just remember that. We're going to have this conversation. You're going to get things back on track, but you got to commit to having this conversation with somebody else who needs exactly what you're going to benefit from now. So again, not to be arrogant, to always be humble, to always know that, we're not really in control or in charge of anything. We can just sort of control those number of things that are controllable. But letting a person know, you're going through an issue, you're going through a phase, you're going through a time. That could be me tomorrow.
Right.
This could be helping somebody out next year.
Yeah. So to use a quote that I read years ago that I liked was, "Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers." I think it was Henry Ford up there in Old Michigan that said that. And so when you hear that, how big of an influence, I see a lot of books behind us there. How big of an influence has reading been in your life?
Yeah, I love reading. I mean, it's something I've been doing since I was a little kid in Catholic grade school. And I've just, over the years, I mean, just there's so much to be learned from reading. And I especially love biographies and autobiographies. Understanding what makes people tick in their own words and other people's words. And there are so many prolific and inspiring biographies out there. I just can't get enough of them. So
Yeah.
reading is essential. I think, I hate to say it, it's becoming somewhat of a lost art. People want to, look at a Kindle or, watch a 15-second TikTok video and understand, what that book intended as opposed to reading it. And when I read, probably like you, Brad, I'm an active reader. I'm marketing stuff. I bend paper. I stick paper clips in. I put Post-it notes there. I pull out quotes and put them on the cards like you're talking about, to be able to just call that knowledge and inspiration. And it's so compelling when you're reading about a real person and what they actually did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I started recently. My bookmark now is just a good size, like a postcard type thing, and I'm writing down every quote from it, what page it was, but then also the mindset of what it jarred up in my mind when I read something like that. So those takeaways, and so it's been very helpful. I've always been a highlighter. I highlight my pages. I have to read the book. I have to keep the book. I always ask people, are always like, "Hey, can I borrow that book?" I'm like, "No, you can't," because I reference these books. I'm like, buy it on Amazon. It'll be here in 12 hours.
Right.
But I think it's just important, right? And my thing is 10 pages a day. Every day, 10 pages. Doesn't mean you're perfect and you do it every single day, but it's been one of the best things for me is to read. And so for the last 7 years, really, I've just been consuming as much as I possibly can. So for those people not reading, I always they always say, "Oh, I never have time. I don't have time." So how did you find time and how did you make it part of your life?
Well, I mean, that quote, you want to get something done, ask a busy person, right? Because they know how to get things done, right? Person who's not busy, there's a reason. They don't know how to get things done. Um, the other great quote about time, because I'm a stickler on the written word as well. And I don't like it when people are sloppy and everything else and they abbreviate just because it's email or whatever. There was that President Dwight Eisenhower famously responded to a letter that he got in his office, and he said, "I'd write you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time." And writing a shorter letter, being concise, man, that takes talent. That takes skill.
Yeah.
Anybody can wander off for an hour and ramble, and write single paragraphs out. But for you to grab somebody, whoa, you really got to think about it. So, I mean, I think you've got to be able to express yourself in writing. You've got to be able to absorb and read, and then take that and do something with it. Send it on to other people, share it, talk about it. And, I hope there's a resurgence in reading and writing.
Yep. Amen to that. Talk about this soccer club, this soccer deal you got going on. I thought that was really cool, doing my research and seeing that and what you've built there and the love of soccer. My kids all play soccer and absolutely love it. So talk a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah, it's super. At Boustead, we specialize in small cap IPOs, companies usually in the $50 to $200 million market cap range, and we list them on NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, in some cases European or Asian exchanges. And along the way, we've got about 50 of those that we're working on with our clients right now. That's 50. And this is kind of a nuclear winter of capital markets. It's a really challenging time. I know your followers and listeners and viewers are probably more than familiar with that. But about a dozen of those companies that were taken through the IPO process, myself and my partner, Keith Moore, who was my college roommate, my track and cross country teammate, and the former president of Activision along the way, he and I are principals in about a dozen of those companies. And one of them is called Brera, B-R-E-R-A, and the ticker is B-R-E-A on NASDAQ. And it's the first Italian football team to list in New York. So nobody had done that before. And this was initially an amateur team that we used as a platform acquisition. We've now bought 5 other teams, 4 football teams, one in Mozambique, one in Mongolia, one in North Macedonia, and a women's professional volleyball team in Italy.
Wow.
It trades on NASDAQ. We're about to conduct a material acquisition for a team in their second tier of soccer called Serie B. And I put together a transaction just a couple of weeks ago to buy out my co-founders and partners so that I'm the largest shareholder. And we have a really good management team that's moving things forward. And we've just seen like so many new areas that you've diversified into, Brent, in your career, that getting out there first and providing public ownership of what are normally small, closely held interests in huge sports teams is super in demand. It's really, really in vogue. It's called MCO, or multi-club ownership. So we're going to keep moving in that direction. One of my partners and co-founders is Chris Gardner, who, if you saw the movie with Will Smith, The Pursuit of Happiness, about the homeless African-American man trying to become a stockbroker in San Francisco, that's Chris Gardner. He's one of our founders. He became an incredibly successful stockbroker, built and sold his own firm, and now is doing interesting things like our Brera football team together.
That's so cool. So people can go on there and buy some of that stuff, and then they are, quote unquote, owners of a football club.
In our case, multiple clubs. Yeah, the whole term that's been coined is called MCO, multi-club ownership. And yes, they have an interest in all those various clubs. And as we've bought certain clubs, we've seen an influx of investors from certain geographies and with certain backgrounds, because they want a piece of their team.
Yeah, that's awesome. And people love their sports, don't they? Talk about one of the hardest moments, and you have to share the moment, if you will, but obviously not everything is just a straight line to success. So any of those tougher days for you, like what did you do? How did you pull yourself up by the work boots and get out of it? And what did you learn most in those situations?
I think there's a general trend, if someone were to dissect my career, is that I have had to adapt to many different situations. So I started out with Ford Motor Company. I then got my licenses in insurance, fee-based financial planning, investment products with Cigna Financial Services. I then became an entrepreneur, along with my wife, founded a company in Italy for the manufacturing of software. Came back to the U.S., invested in what at the time we called the .com. Now I call it the .comedy revolution in the extremely late 90s and not quite 2000 when it peaked. So I think being able to reinvent myself time and time again, and knowing that I hadn't exactly figured out what that next step was going to be, but I wasn't so specialized in any one area that I couldn't modify and adapt and absorb something new. And there are invariably setbacks with any number of businesses, but having a number of different industries that I've gone into and come out of, I think I've really gained an appreciation for what it takes to continuously reinvent yourself.
Yeah. And it seems to me like you're a builder. You like to build. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I do. Even though I've never been a massive manager of large numbers of people, I think through my style and my productivity and my ability to inspire and motivate people, that I've been able to attract followings in the various organizations that I've been a part of, a founder in, a key shareholder of over the years. But I wouldn't be the Harvard Business School manager that you would read about in a case study for your MBA. But I think being open to different approaches, different types of people, different situations, and not being put off by them like so many people are.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's to your point of that, your Harvard MBA thing. I think, though, at the same time, you could probably teach a PhD lesson because you have taken action, you have bet on yourself, and you've built the things that you've built and exited the things that you've wanted to exit, right?
For the most part, yes. And, no offense to any of your listeners, I meet somebody from Harvard. Sometimes they'll say, well, help teach you how to make money. And I said that one
Yeah.
time to a billionaire, and he said, well, actually, I'm doing pretty
I
good.
think I'm okay.
And I kind of came off of that. But yeah, as I like to say, no one's asked for my report card lately. So anyhow, but you can be what you want to be from a variety of different backgrounds.
Yeah. So you hear the quote here, you see it on my microphone, helping you achieve a future greater than your past. So when you hear that, helping you achieve a future greater than your past, what comes to mind for you?
So having a strong and firm definition of what you want to accomplish. If you can't say it, if you can't write it, how are we ever going to achieve it? So I think first and foremost, inventorying what those things are. What is important? Where do you want to go? What's next? How does that inspire in you a sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, contribution to others? All those different things that come into it. So I think starting out, knowing what you want to do, not just blindly chasing money or upside or alpha or net worth or anything like that, but what is it that really turns you on? I know that sounds a little cliche and a little bit trite, but with that as a starting point, you can get your arms around it and define it. Wow, you're now you're on your way to really being able to apply yourself.
Yeah. It's the old saying, when you know your why, anyhow is possible, right? I mean, the clearer you are on your vision and the thoughts of where you're going in life, well, okay, now I know. That's like if I just gave you the keys in my car and said, here, go get in, and you just start aimlessly driving. And I think people sometimes can do that in their life, right? They get in. But the guy that gets in or the gal that gets in and types into the GPS system exactly where they're going, they're going to get there, right? It's not aimlessly driving. It's just like, so why would we do that in our own lives? So when you hear the word fear, how many of the words, and not words, but how many of the things that have happened in your life, the fears we put in our mind, how many of them have blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
Well, in hindsight, ultimately, very few.
Yeah.
But in the moment, as you're alluding to here, Brett, it's bigger than life. It has an outsized importance. It's life or death. It's game over if this doesn't happen. So, having the, first of all, definition of purpose that you just alluded to, but then the clarity of mind, which is really tough, right? We've all been hit the forehead with a baseball bat, so to speak, and had to figure out, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this? But just trying to have that clarity to rise above it, to exhale, to think about it, to sleep on it, to wait 10 minutes before you pick up the phone or send the email and go nuclear when maybe that's not the right thing to do. But just being able to reassure yourself that, we have to respond, but we're going to get this.
Yeah. We're going to be all right.
Yeah.
Where do our listeners find more of Dan McClory?
Well, there's always my LinkedIn presence. I'm not a massive social media person, but I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I do most of my postings. And, we have a CRM tool. There's probably 100,000 people to our firm. We outbound updates of a variety of things, not just business, but philanthropy, outside pursuits. We like to keep people updated. But I'd say probably LinkedIn is as good a place as any to start. Of course, Google, especially somebody with the background of yours, that could Google you and find a plethora of things to connect with you on and to talk about.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, thanks so much for being on the Circuit of Success, man. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom, and thanks for sharing today.
You are welcome. I really appreciated your stimulating questions and background, and hopefully this is of interest and beneficial to all of your followers.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, and hang with me here.